We've seen some truly spectacular bridge crashes over the years, from small boats to massive cruise ships. But sometimes it's not the bridge that wins the battle. This is the tugboat Devrek, and this is the bridge at Gonville in the Netherlands. Now, the tugboat was attempting to push this barge through the bridge, but it misjudged the clearance and boom, they hit the bridge. The good news is that the bridge was empty. This could have been so much worse. The water was also very shallow here, so it's unlikely that the bridge even floated, meaning the damage should be mostly just to the boat. That said, the boat does look like it might sink, so I'm not sure if the crew was able to make it out. This was definitely a close call for them. It's amazing how many places there are where ships can get stuck. You'd think after thousands of years we would know better than to build things that boats go and fit under. But nope, here's another example. In 2015, this cruise ship tried to make the turn into port, but turned a little too sharply and wound up running bottom first into this dock in St. Martin. Now this was really bad timing, because this is one of the busiest ports in the world. This Carnival cruise ship literally just shut down half the port with this move. It also broke off one of its lifeboats in the process. As we'll see later, this isn't even the worst place for a ship to run aground. Sometimes though, the bridge wins the battle, and sometimes it's not even close. Like in this next case, it's not clear what happened here. Was the ship going too fast? Did it misjudge the clearance? Or maybe someone forgot to raise the bridge in time. But whatever the reason, this ship crashed straight into the side of this bridge. And it's unbelievable that this thing did. And snap in half, the ship's bow definitely got crushed here, but the rest of it looks intact. I am guessing that the ship was probably carrying some sort of vehicle on the deck, because when it hit, all those vehicles slid towards the front of the ship, leaving these empty spaces in the middle. But sometimes a ship running into a bridge isn't even about the bridge. It's all about the ship. Take this Norwegian cruise line ship, for example. It was sailing into New York City when all of a sudden it started to list to one side. It was then that everyone noticed that the ship's gangway was down, and it had been slowly filling with water. The ship was immediately rushed to the nearest port where emergency crews were waiting. They weren't able to save the gangway, but they did manage to pump most of the water out of the lower decks. After this, the ship set sail for Bermuda, where it was met with even more bad luck. A storm caused the ship to lose power, which meant it couldn't even dock. Once they finally got into port though, they found that the damage to the ship was so extensive that they had to cancel the rest of their trip. Sometimes a ship runs into something else, besides a bridge or a dock. In this case, it was another ship, but this was no ordinary ship. This was the brand new aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford. It was in the middle of its acceptance trials off the coast of Virginia when it ran bottom first into this dry dock. Somehow, no one was injured, but the damage to the ship was catastrophic. To make matters worse, the Navy has already spent more than $10 billion on this ship, and now they'll have to spend an undetermined amount fixing the damage. But hey, at least it wasn't a bridge. Speaking of bridges, though this next crash was insane, this was the MSC Divina, a 1,000-foot cruise ship that ran into a bridge in Venice, Italy. It was actually carrying 2,600 passengers at the time, and the bridge that it hit was one of the oldest and most historic in Venice. It is believed that the ship's pilot simply made a wrong turn and wound up ramming the bridge. Luckily, most of the passengers were still on board the ship when this happened, but that didn't stop people from making fun of the incident. Some people even started calling the ship the MSC Titanic. Ouch. That, however, pales in comparison to this next wreck. This cargo ship, called the Crimson Polaris, got stuck on a sandbar in the middle of the Mississippi River. But that was the least of its problems. Soon after, it started to break apart, and within days, it was completely destroyed. The ship was carrying $30 million worth of soybeans, but it looks like a lot of them are going to spoil. What makes this such a bad spot to run aground is that the river was so low, the ship wound up getting stranded in the middle of nowhere. There was no way for it to move forward, so it had to watch helplessly as the river slowly drained around it. Sometimes a ship running into something isn't even the ship's fault. In 2016, this container ship was sailing through the Suez Canal when it slammed into this wall. That would have never been so bad, except that the ship was so tall that it literally crushed the wall and caused the entire roadway to collapse. Well folks, now it's time to make your voice heard. Which was the craziest bridge crash you've ever seen? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to stay tuned for more amazing videos. See you next time.